For nearly 3 years, ChatGPT owned the AI conversation market completely. But last week, for the first time ever, its market share dipped below 50%. And what makes this shocking isn't just the number, it's how fast it happened. OpenAI's flagship product went from 90% dominance to losing the majority in just a handful of months. Think about that for a second. It's like the iPhone suddenly becoming half the smartphone market overnight after owning 90%. The question everyone's asking is simple. What changed? Well, it wasn't ChatGPT getting worse. If anything, ChatGPT improved significantly. It was everything else finally getting better. Competitors aren't just copying OpenAI's homework anymore. They are handing in completely different assignments that users actually prefer for specific jobs. And that change is reshaping the entire AI industry in ways most people haven't noticed yet. In this video, we're going to explore exactly how ChatGPT lost its crown, which companies are winning instead, and what this means for the tools you're going to use in the next year. This isn't a story about one company failing. It's a story about the market maturing faster than anyone expected. And here's where it gets interesting. To understand ChatGPT's fall from grace, we need to understand how it dominated in the first place. When OpenAI released ChatGPT in November 2022, it was a lightning strike moment for technology. The AI didn't just work in a lab setting, it worked in a way regular people could actually use. Forget research papers and complicated prompts. You could write in plain English, ask it questions, and get answers that actually made sense. Within 2 months, it reached 100 million users. Within a year, it became the fastest-growing consumer application in the entire history of technology. No app, not Instagram, not TikTok, nothing had ever grown that fast. But here's the critical thing nobody talks about. That growth wasn't purely because ChatGPT was amazing. It was because everything else was either terrible or locked behind paywalls. When ChatGPT launched, Google had Bard, a product so bad it made Google look like it didn't understand its own technology. Microsoft had nothing. Meta had nothing. Everyone else was completely caught flat-footed. So ChatGPT didn't just win, it owned the entire category with no real competition. Users flocked to it because it was the only game in town. That dominance felt unshakable at the time. But that very complacency, combined with ChatGPT's real limitations, created the perfect environment for competition. And the competition was watching very carefully. Google finally moved. After years of embarrassment watching ChatGPT dominate, the company released Gemini, and this time it actually worked. Not just worked, excelled at many tasks. Gemini's seamless integration into Google Search, Gmail, and Android meant millions of people suddenly had a powerful AI assistant without downloading anything new. They just started using it through tools they already loved every single day. Meanwhile, Anthropic released Claude, which took a completely different technical approach. While ChatGPT optimized for speed and flashiness, Claude focused on depth, accuracy, and constitutional AI, basically building better values and reasoning into the model itself. For users doing serious work, coding complex systems, analyzing documents, writing academic papers, Claude became the preferred tool instantly. Then came the specialists. Perplexity built an AI designed specifically for research with actual source citations. Mistral released affordable alternatives. DeepSeek out of China released a model so efficient and cheap it made OpenAI's pricing look expensive. Suddenly ChatGPT wasn't the only game in town anymore. It was just one option among many. Each competitor found their niche, built something better for that specific job, and users switched. Not because ChatGPT became bad, users just discovered better tools for their specific needs. And here's what the headlines aren't telling you. Let's look at concrete places where ChatGPT's dominance is actually cracking in real user behavior. In software development, developers overwhelmingly switch to Claude. Why? Claude handles longer code files without losing context, understands more complex programming problems, and makes significantly fewer dangerous mistakes. ChatGPT would confidently generate code that looked perfect but was completely broken underneath. For researchers and students, Perplexity became the new default because it actually cites sources with clickable links you can verify. ChatGPT makes things up confidently, and while it's improved, that hallucination problem still exists. In businesses using AI for customer service, the math changed dramatically. A company might pay $20 monthly per employee for ChatGPT Plus, but competitors often do 90% of the job for half the price. Multiply that across 100, 1,000, 10,000 employees, and the economic decision becomes obvious. At universities, professors started blocking ChatGPT on assignments because students using it became too obvious. But blocking 5 different alternatives is nearly impossible. Students discovered those tools often worked better anyway. In creative fields, writing, design, music composition, artists gravitated to Claude for its nuance or Gemini for its integration with Google's ecosystem. But wait, there's something deeper here nobody's talking about. Let's put actual numbers on what happened to the market. 6 months ago, ChatGPT held roughly 75% of the AI chatbot market by active monthly users. Today, that number sits at approximately 48%. Google Gemini captured 22%, but here's the critical detail. That includes millions of people using it through Google Search and Gmail without consciously choosing it. Claude holds about 12% of users and is growing fastest month after month. Perplexity, while smaller, is the only competitor growing faster than Claude. Everyone else divides the remaining 6% of the market. Now, at first glance, ChatGPT still has the biggest market slice, right? It still dominates. But here's the fundamental change nobody's discussing. The entire pie is growing massively. The total AI chatbot user base expanded from 200 million to 800 million in just 18 months. So while ChatGPT's absolute number of real users actually increased significantly, its share of a much larger market shrunk. More importantly, growth patterns completely changed. New users don't pick ChatGPT as their single tool anymore. They immediately try multiple competitors. They lack loyalty to OpenAI like early adopters had. For newer users, ChatGPT is one option among many choices. That represents a completely different market dynamic than monopoly dominance. The network effects that protected ChatGPT's monopoly are breaking down. On the surface, this looks like a business story where one company loses dominance to competitors. But underneath, it reveals how entire technology industries actually evolve and mature over time. Monopolies in technology don't usually collapse because the dominant player makes terrible products. They collapse because markets mature, standardization happens, and switching costs completely disappear overnight. Look at search engines. As a historical parallel, Google dominated search for 20 years and still does, but lock-in weakened the moment people realized you could just try DuckDuckGo or Perplexity without any friction. Exactly the same thing is happening with AI chatbots right now in real time. There's no lock-in whatsoever. Your conversations don't sync between services. There's no app ecosystem where you've invested hundreds of hours building things. You can use Claude today and Gemini tomorrow and switch back to ChatGPT next week without any friction or cost. That freedom is devastating for monopolies. For users, this change is genuinely great news overall. Companies can't coast on reputation anymore. They must keep innovating or lose users immediately. For the industry, this means more specialization. Instead of one massive general AI doing everything reasonably well, we get specialized tools excelling at specific jobs. That's more efficient. But here's the thing that changes everything in this picture. If you're currently using ChatGPT exclusively, now's definitely the right time to experiment with alternatives. Here's exactly how to start. First, visit Claude AI and try Claude directly. Log in with Google or email and start a real conversation on something you actually care about. Pay attention to how Claude handles your prompts differently. It's typically more thorough and direct. Test it on your actual work, a document you want summarized, code you want reviewed, a complex question you've been wrestling with for days. Second, try Gemini if you have any Google account. Visit Gemini, Google.com. The major advantage here is integration. If you use Gmail, Google Workspace, Android, or Search Daily, Gemini's context about your actual life gives it a real edge. Third, if you do research work, spend an afternoon with Perplexity completely free. The ability to cite actual sources and verify information changes how you approach research. Fourth, don't just pick one tool and lock yourself in forever. The whole point of this market change is that different tools excel at different specific tasks. You're not switching companies, you're building a custom toolkit. That toolkit will probably still include ChatGPT, just not as your only tool. The real goal isn't abandoning OpenAI. It's using the best tool for each specific job. ChatGPT falling below 50% market share isn't evidence that OpenAI failed or that their technology stopped working. It's evidence that the AI market is functioning exactly like healthy competitive markets should function. Great products gain massive dominance. Dominance attracts serious competition. Competition forces everyone to improve their technology and listen better to what users actually need. Suddenly, the original product becomes one strong option instead of the only option. For OpenAI, this is a wake-up call to stay hungry and keep innovating. They've already responded by making ChatGPT faster and more integrated into tools like SearchGPT. But they can't assume users stick around just from getting there first. For you as a user, this change is genuinely good news. You now have real choice and alternatives. You're not stuck with one company's vision. You can use Claude for deep work, Gemini for integration, Perplexity for research, and ChatGPT for everything else. Competition forces everyone to innovate faster and actually listen to users instead of telling them what to want. The real story here isn't that ChatGPT is failing. It's that the AI industry is finally maturing properly. Winners in the next phase will be determined by who keeps getting better, not who got there first. Follow for daily AI news, and we'll keep you updated as this market keeps shifting.